Hello and welcome back to E3D Designs. Today, we're going to install the connector in on our hot-end wiring assembly. So, let's get started. Alright, so for this part of our upgrade, you're going to need the male connector. Here's your Molex male connector. You can get that through DigiKey. And you'll also need 12 female pins. Look like this. Here's all your different colors you can get. Again, available through DigiKey. Here's all the different part numbers. You can choose to do all the different colors like I did, or just pick one color and make sure you keep all your wires straight. Alright, so at the end of the last video, I had you install the cable chain. As you can see here, our heater wires are not going to reach back to the main circuit board, but no worries, we're going to splice the ends of the old wires onto these, and we have plenty of length to reach all the plug points once we install the pins on the end of this. So now what we need to do is we actually need to take this back out so we can install all the pins onto the end of this harness and plug it into our other end connector. So let's get this pulled back out. Alright, so one of the first things I did was make myself a little cheat sheet here. I drew out the connector, made myself a little mark for what the front of the plug was, and listed out all my different pins and what colors they were when I put them in on the extruder carriage. So I've got my 12 pins laid out, I've got my cable chain. First thing we need to do is remove this green tape. Next thing we need to do is determine which one of these pairs we're going to use for our hot ends. Remember, we did tape both ends. I'm just going to pull one so they're uneven. Hopefully I can get one to move separately. So we'll make this one here extruder 0 and this one extruder 1. So since this is the longer one, the shorter one at the other end. Get my marker here. And for now, draw a 0 on this one. And put a 1 on that one. So I can get my drawer to hold that all still for me. Alright, so now that we figure out which one's going to be which, go ahead and take the tape off the ends of that. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to strip these down, match up the wires, and solder on our pins. Alright, so there are two wires in this we won't use right now. The brown one and the gray one. If you want, you could cut them off flush. I leave them just in case I ever want to solder in a second fan or something like that. I usually just tuck them aside out of the way. Alright, so now we've got our wires stripped. I'm going to go ahead and cut some pieces of heat shrink to put down over this while our soldering iron heats up. And I want to go ahead and put it down over the end of the wires, since the one I'm using here is not smaller than the contact end. You could use a larger one that you could slide over this end if you wanted. Okay, now, so according to the cheat sheet that I made, we know that our heater 0 had the green wires, and our heater 1 had the orange. Now we made sure that the longer one here was heater 0, so that'll be our green. These will be our orange. We'll go ahead and do those first before we get those confused. Also, we know that one thermistor had an orange wire and a red wire for heater 0, the thermistor that goes with that. The next bank was blank. The layer cooling fan, we used the blue and the purple wires. The heat break fan, we used the yellow and the green wires. For the thermistor for heater 1, we used the black and the white, and then as we said, heater 1 is the orange wires. So we'll go ahead and start soldering these up and put the heat shrink on. Alright, and looking here, I just realized this heat shrink is not going to slide over this, so I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple longer pieces, or larger pieces I should say. Slide that piece on as far as I can. Sink it up. Then take one of these larger pieces. Make sure I get it over the blue. One. All right. That's the green. Now we're just going to repeat this all for the orange. So that takes care of both of our sets of heater wires. All we have left to do now is all the ones for our fans and our thermistors. Pretty much match up the color to the color. Alright, so now we've got all of our ends soldered up. We need to insert them in our plug. Now we'll go by our little cheat sheet here. We know the green ones go on the outside at this end. As you let's see, put this where you guys can see it. So now we just need to put the wires in the end according to our little graph here. There's the front, which is keyed like this. Now I drew this picture as if I was looking at the top of the plug on the carriage. So that would be looking down at the top like so. Now you need to have your little groove. Let's see. You can see it. Here we go. There's a little groove that's at the top. I'm gonna put the groove at the top, line it up like this, put it until it locks. I need to get some of this slack off of here. We're gonna work our way down the plug. So the next are gonna be the orange and the red. Orange is going to be on the front. Red on the back. Now, thermistors and heaters don't matter on polarity, but when we get to our layer cooling fan, it does. And our layer cooling, we're going to skip the next two holes. Our layer cooling fan, blue is going to be on the front, purple is going to be in the back. Skipped our two holes. Blue in the front. Purple at the back. Now I need to have yellow in the front and the green in the back for our heat sink cooling fan. Green's in the back, yellow's in the front. And then our white's going to go in the back for that thermistor. And our black in the front. And then our two other heater wires. And that is how we do this end of the connector. I'll go ahead and feed it back a little bit. And we'll have to put this in place and mold it in, which we'll do here in just a second so we can figure out the lengths on the other end of our cable. Alright, so again we need to feed our cable in here. Go ahead and feed your ribbon cable down in between the rod and that opening back there, along with your two heater wires. Pull it back. Snap it in place. And we're going to loosen our two screws so we can put that in place. Back over there so everybody can see. And we're going to fit our plug. So. And work our wiring back in. You can pull it back this way a little bit if you want. Alright, so one step I realized I missed when we were setting up this cable change, we need to flip this last piece over. Just snap it loose. Go around put it back in place. That way it locks down just like that. Give you a better view above it. And we go ahead and put our cap back on. Careful not to over tighten that too much. But now we have the wiring set up on this end. Now what we need to do is we need to pull all of our wires through the back down here so we can measure out our length for splicing on the other ends. But that'll be in the next episode. Alright, so that wraps up putting on the connector on the end of our hot end wiring harness. In our next episode, we're going to go ahead and trim all the wires and get everything spliced up and ready to go for plugging into the main board. Remember, if you like the channel, subscribe to it. Ring that bell so you get updates. I have a wish list at the bottom if you want to help support building the next printer. And I also have a PayPal link if you just want to support the channel. And remember, if it ain't broke, upgrade it. We'll see you next time.